Welcome back to HSC AMA. I'm your host, Juliana Chinsky, and today we couldn't be more excited for an exclusive AMA with Jake Reni, our community favorite go-to-market leader, Fractional CRO, hailing from HireVue and Adobe, and founder and chief growth officer, Revenue Reimagined. Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Why don't you tell us what's the latest, what you're up to?
Well, as you just mentioned, I have just joined as of yesterday the Revenue Reimagined team. So Adam J. and Dale Zwazinski, who initially started about 6 months ago on a vision of like helping as many founders as they possibly could to really nail go-to-market scaling and make it in a way that founders can do it in a very responsible and scalable way. And I decided to go off on my own a few months ago, and somehow the stars brought us all together, and we have now launched this as a team, and I've just joined them as co-founder and chief growth officer, and I couldn't be more excited. This really, for me, is like a pinnacle career moment.
For them as well. Lucky team.
I like to think that.
Well, Jake, we have 26 minutes and more than 50 questions, so let's go.
I heard these can get intense, so I'm ready.
Let's do it. So the first one is, teach me your best-selling skill set on men.
My best sales skill, like that, like, can you elaborate?
I have to read it, so unscripted.
Okay, say it one more time. Teach me what?
Teach me your best-selling skill set.
My best-selling skill set. Well, maybe I just taught you my best-selling skill set, and that's discovery, asking questions and clarifying. But what I will tell you, whoever asked that question, if that's what you're going after, I think the most important skill, like, that you can start on immediately as a new seller and continue to develop as you get more seasoned in your career at any layer and leadership or individual contributor, is being a good listener and understanding how to run proper discovery to get context and relevance, so that you can have the right kinds of conversations with your buyers.
Jake, subject to a question. Why do you think we're talking for decades and more about listening skills, and it's still a problem?
Because it's human nature for it to be a problem. We're selfish, we're fear-driven, and I think people don't recognize that sometimes we also have a desire to connect, and on that, like, it's not negative all times, right? Like, there's human desire and human nature is to connect, and some of us find, like for me, I have ADHD, and it's an actual thing that I recognize that my way of showing people that I'm listening and connecting with them is to interject and tell my story and tell my example of the same thing that happened. But what I have learned to realize is that sometimes it comes in as I'm trying to one-up you, or I'm trying to take the spotlight. And I have a lovely wife that I thank for this, but sometimes she reminds me, like, Jake, we're talking about me right now. And I go, you're right.
That's funny. Second question. How do you land an interim role and quickly evaluate the most promising areas to focus on?
An interim role?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Going back to the listening phase, like, you can't, the worst thing I think you can do, whether it's an interim role or first time, or a full-time role, is come into an organization and immediately, with all your assumptions of your previous work or learnings or successes or failures, assume that those will all equally apply into the new environment that you're in. So what you need to do is, like, when I onboard a new client, I initially start with like 0 business related topics, and I just got off a one-on-one with a sales leader that I was talking to, and I just want to get to know who they are, what their expectations are, what their experiences have been so far. And then from there, move into, what are you hoping to accomplish together? What are your expectations of me, and how do I fulfill those? And if we look back on the end of this project, what would be the definition of success that we're both celebrating together, right? I want to know what people's current state and future state in their mind looks like, so we can anchor off of and then start focusing on those areas. And then along the way, naturally, you will gain observations of the things that need to be fixed as well. But getting intimate and listening, I think, is the most critical piece.
Next question. I'm brand new as a CRO and own both sales and marketing. There is so many things to fix, and I know I should be looking at them from a perspective of achieving revenue. But how do I get out of all these fires and fix things that really drive revenue?
Oh my gosh. You just gave me PTSD with that question. But what I'll tell you is like that feeling you have when you join as a first-time CRO or first-time leader in any organization is like recognizing that there's so many levers on this wall that you could pull at the same time. And the secret is like figuring out which levers to pull and in which order and how many, right? So what I would tell you is it's really important to one, make sure that there's alignment across the leadership team. When you say there are fires, does everyone believe that they're actually fires? Right? Does your CEO know that they're fires? Does your CFO know like and accept that they're fires? Is there alignment across the leadership team on what those fires are? And then is there prioritization to it? Like the biggest thing that you need to develop at this stage, being close to working with the founder and a CEO, is making sure that you're managing up, but also making sure that you're aligned with the expectations of what those priorities need to be. And I would do that on the regular. That's I think the most important lesson I learned through tripping through that my first few founders is making sure that my priorities and my focus were aligned with what their expectations of their priorities and their focus for me were. And it doesn't mean that they're always right. It just means that it gives me an opportunity to then reframe what those need to be and then reestablish the order of priorities. Once you've got that order of priorities and you're working on them together, then you're always aligned. But you need that alignment.
First, your thoughts, Jake, on culture. And because we have a ton of questions about CRO staff, revenue staff, alignment, it all seems like just listening to it, it just comes down to culture and communication, transparent communication with the stakeholders. Um, how do you evaluate if you're a culture fit?
For an organization,
Yep.
if it's culturally fit. Man, that answer has changed for me over the years. Early in my career, I would have told you culture is a fun place of coworkers that feel like your family and that you have fun with and that you can enjoy your day and you don't dread going to work. I don't believe that anymore. Like what really to me is ultimately the most important thing about culture is working on building a foundation of trust with the team that you're part of. If you don't trust one another, literally like nothing else matters in the business, and you'll never work well together. A leadership team, a sales organization, everything is built on a factor of trust and extreme ownership. And from there, those foundations allow you to work better as a culture. And then the next piece I'll tell you is work with good people. Go find good people that you want to be around, that you want to emulate, that you want, that won't expect you to compromise your principles under the guise of being loyal to the business. Because I'll tell you, great founders will only lift you up and will understand that principled leadership is actually critical to your success and their success.
Beautiful. Next question. What does a typical fractional CRO engagement involve? Typical ICP and GTM strategy, fractional CRO adapts with client or customers.
I'll tell you my experience. I don't know if it applies to everyone because I talk to different fractional CROs who operate in different stages. Like for example, me as a fractional CRO, I am not the person who can help you get product market fit. I don't believe that's my job. That's product, right? And that's the founding team. And so I stay away from like an ICP perspective or a persona perspective from the founder who's wanting me to come and find product market fit for them. Like it's a waste of their cash flow with me. So from an ICP perspective, I like to work with founders that are somewhere between 2 million to about 50 million in revenue that are either at seed, Series A stages, or like mature Series A to Series B stages, where they are coming out of product market fit phases into go-to-market fit phase and ready to scale their systems, processes, and build something that's repeatable. But we have enough data that we can anchor off of to know, okay, how do we chart a course? That like those are really fun projects. I'm working with the GM right now that's perfectly in this fit, and we are moving fast because all those things are aligned. Some people like to work at later stages. Some people like to work at earlier stages, but like in this is for me, I think a great area to work. And I think it's a great space where founders really need help because there are multiple growth stages along this path.
Have you tried working in different stages? How did you come up with a kind of a reasoning for the perfect stage for you?
Because I personally have worked full time in those different stages. I've worked with founders from 0 to our first 5 million. And then I've worked at stages of like the 15 million to 30. I've done 60 to 100. I've done 100 to 250, and even worked at like bigger programs. I intentionally worked at different stages to see what I liked. And what I found is that there's something magic about those stages of around 2 million to 20, 30 million that once the final pieces of the puzzle fall into place, there is an unstoppable like momentum that you can create. And as long as you understand certain frameworks and processes and you can get the right systems in place, you're just building and going. And for me, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Next question. Recommendation for maintaining control of a deal at a time when decision makers want to evaluate their options behind closed doors more than ever.
Well, when I hear the word control, like the first thing in my mind goes off is like, you can't control everything. And I would say control the things you can control. Trying to prevent your buyer from evaluating other products I don't know if it's a healthy form of control. In some cases, you need to be more confident that your solution, the product, and the value that you're bringing and the perception of your value from your buyer, that element of your control needs to be so damn good that it doesn't matter who they go talk to, right? Because you should help them understand and reframe the current state of their problem and the pain in a way that's done so well that they know they have to solve the problem with or without you. And naturally, having been a buyer, if you think you're the only thing I'm going to evaluate, then you're actually like, it's an insult to think that I'm not going to go evaluate my best options. So focus your energy on controlling the things that you can control. And that's the way you are shifting the perception of value in what you're bringing to the table and helping them understand the future state is going to be better than the current state. And if I think it's just really important that if they start continuing to like wanting to evaluate other products or coming back to you and you're late stage in those deals, what I'll tell you is you're probably dealing with a buyer who doesn't trust that the implementation is going to take them to a better place than where they're currently at now, and they're just dragging their feet. And the last thing I'll tell you is you've got to drive alignment. You've got to drive consensus. So if you want to make sure you've got a aligned decision from your decision maker, if you don't have access to the other people influencing that deal, the person signing that deal, the person where the budget's coming from, or the cross-functional peers or partners involved in that decision, you have zero control.
You should come up with a stoic sales methodology.
I mean, that's like the thing is like sellers, like we panic and we like, the one thing is I've noticed a lot of high performing sellers is they're very anxiety driven. And so like you obsess about control. It's just like, don't focus your energy in areas where you have zero control over when you're actually like that seller becomes an anxious, nervous seller that you feel that from as a buyer. And I don't want to work with you.
When hiring fractional CRO, what are the key KPIs or factors one has to take note of?
At the startup, there's a couple things I really want to notice right away when evaluating an opportunity. I want to understand total revenue. I want to understand like net revenue retention and gross revenue retention over the last couple of years or quarters at minimum. I want to understand current close rates, average deal sizes, sales cycles, just generally understanding where are they playing, what segments are they playing in, and are these general basic KPIs of performance on par or is something missing? Because that immediately can give me some idea of like what's breaking and where I might need to be focusing. So I wouldn't say you need to know all the metrics and all the data, but you do need to understand some core health KPIs of the business to give you an understanding if you even want to work with them or not.
What inspired you to go fractional CRO rather than full-time CRO?
Um, yeah, being a self-proclaimed kind of recovering CRO, it, if I'm talking to other CROs out there or VPs of sales or people who are aspiring to be in the role, I know I'm talking to my people. You hear me when I say you are burning out or you have burnt out or you have been through lots of experiences that have been draining to you, right? It's rare that you're the sales leader who has hit time and time again, IPO after IPO after IPO. It's not the reality for most of us. And it gets to a certain point where you realize you can only influence as much as the founding team or the leaders that you're working with are willing to implement those ideas. And oftentimes they don't, and then they hold you accountable to the decisions they made that were counter to the guidance that you gave them. And so in the long run, what I realized is I want to be able to help as many startups accomplish and scale some of the exciting experiences I've had. And I can do that stepping into a fractional role as opposed to being in an individual organization, tying my destiny and my success and my journey to a single founder who might be very narcissistic or whatever it might be. So I'd rather be in control in the sense of my own career and be steering the ship. I can have more influence this way.
Do you believe PLG models will take over half of SaaS?
I think PLG is just another exciting buzzword that have distracted a lot of brilliant founders. I say that at the same time saying it definitely has its place and deserves an understanding if it applies to your model. Not everyone can apply the Slack method or some of the other Calendly or others that have done this so well because the products are designed and the use cases are designed specifically for this. What I'll tell you too is PLG was all that was ever talked about for the last 3 years. And then all of a sudden people are shying away from it and realizing it didn't work for their model or it didn't apply. And they've spent months or years or several cycles shifting their product roadmap to apply a PLG approach and had no business in the segment and the persona that they're selling to. So what I will say is don't buy into the hype. Make sure you have a brilliant product team who understands the customer, communicates with the customer, and communicates with your sales and go-to-market team and build for what is right for your customer and go down that model. PLG might be right. PLG might not be right, but I do believe PLG will continue to have a bigger presence in SaaS, and I believe that it should.
How can I go from AE to VP to a CRO?
Be good at the job you're in. Start there, right? I came up in this space and hear me all out before you got upset about what I'm about to say. I grew up in an era of sales where you had to commit 5-10 years of tenure in an individual role to ever be considered to step into another role. Now, I literally remember getting a verbal promotion for a major, one of the largest medical device companies in the world, early on in my career, and then it never becoming official. And 2 months go by, 3 months go by, wasn't really sure what was going on. Communicate with my CRO about, or the chief sales officer at the time, what was happening. And, he said, Jake, you're just really young. You need to pay your dues. Like, I think you need to spend more time in the role, and you're just not quite ready. You need to put more time into the role. And I remember thinking to myself, that's absurd, right? But what I'll tell you is the learning I had from that was when I was ready, unfortunately, it wasn't there because I decided to move on. But when I had 3 to 4 years of proven success behind me at that company, I left after 5 years. I had 5 years of quarter after quarter, year after year, proven track record of performing in a territory. I took a territory from literally 45 out of 45 ranked number, like the worst, growing at 600% and becoming the top 2 contender every single year. The last 4 years I was there. That made me realize that anyone can promote by talking a big game, but having 1 or 2 quarters of success under your belt means nothing, because you take that same rep and put them into a new organization, to a new motion with new messaging and a new persona, and they will fall on their feet, flat on their face. How do I know that? Because I've done it. And what you have to realize is you have to get really good at developing your system, your process, your formulas, so that you can repeat those in where you go over and over and over again. That is what makes you a great, I think, promotable leader, is a proven track record of success. It doesn't have to be 5 years, but there needs to be some science behind what you do.
Posting those badges, certificates,
Yeah.
CRO.
It's great. Like, do all that. I don't care. Like, do it. Just recognize that it doesn't mean that you're ready, and that's okay. Just pay your dues, and not in the sense of time, in the sense of developing expertise. This is something I've really put a lot of attention to over the last couple of years. Is like, experience and expertise are 2 very different things, and I think that's what I'm talking about here. You can have a lot of experience doing something the wrong way over and over and over again, or you can take time to develop expertise in something and, having done it in a lot less time, but know that you're brilliant at it, and that's what matters.
What are your thoughts on compensation structures?
Like, what about them, right? I think what you have to realize is, what are you incentivizing? What are you hoping to incentivize in the behavior of your sellers, right? What I will tell you is keep them simple. Like, you shouldn't, sales reps should not have to have a PhD in finance, right? A degree in finance to be able to understand their comp plan. And all the levers and the accelerators and all the things built into it that make it ultra confusing. I recently worked with a CFO who just overcomplicated every element of the comp plan, and it was exhausting to try to explain it to sellers. But then we were constantly dealing with I didn't understand this, and why didn't I get paid for this? And we were wasting so much time dealing with frustrated sellers on a morale issue tied to a comp plan that was overly complex. And once we pulled back and simplified it, made it very clear for sellers to understand what is expected of them, how to earn, how to make a lot of money, then let everyone go and celebrate big checks. Like, a comp plan should be designed to help your top performers make great money. And if you have a hard time cutting a big commission check, then I think you need to do some internal reflection, because that sales rep is helping you win, and you should do whatever you can to keep them there.
What's the biggest problem you're seeing in GTM, Jake?
I think early stage, one of the biggest things is kidding yourself that you have a product that actually has product market fit, and trying to accelerate through the product market fit phase way too quickly, and pouring way too much money into the revenue organization before you really understand that your buyers want what you have, and you have a pricing model that works. And so I think trying to pour gas on the fire too soon is a huge mistake. Imagine, what's going to happen if you pour a gallon of gasoline onto a match that just lit, right? You're going to wash it out. And so what you need to do is actually build some repeatability to that and understand and stay close to your customer. I think the other thing too on that note is as you get through different stages of growth, I start to see founders starting to pull away from the customer and being convinced that they still understand the market, and they understand the customer and understand the direction they want to go, because they're anchoring off of maybe the onesie twosie founder-led deals that they help close early on. And they're talking to those customers still, but you went from 2 customers to 50 customers to 150 customers. Those 2 customers might not be the sample size of actually who's paying you today. And so make sure that you stay close. There's a big mistake that I see a lot of founders making is they start to disconnect from the customer and the user and what is actually delighting the customer, and they start building a roadmap that is based on the shiny objects and the squirrel syndrome that they have as founders. So stay close to your customer.
A good one. Just I think in one of the podcasts or webinars, I heard you saying you never regretted under hiring, but you always
Yeah.
regretted over hiring. So it all comes down to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said that, and I say it a lot because, you get this inflection of cash, and you get this, there's an excitement of where you're supposed to go, and you get this number from the board that it's unattainable. And the only way that the founders like try to solve this, or inexperienced founders, what I'll say is by just throwing warm bodies at this solution. And it's not the case. If you take a more sophisticated approach to this, we talked about bottoms up modeling in the past and building a real capacity like forecast model based on actual performance, you might actually realize that the money that you have to scale the business should not go into headcount. Maybe it should actually go into demand spend, or should go into SEO efforts, or should go into product, or should go into SDRs. Like you need to invest in the right places, and hiring sellers is the most expensive mistake you can make if it's not the right time.
We have 1 minute. And last question, just randomly selected. How do you go about formulating a strategic revenue plan? Give us a sense of your process.
Okay, so going back to the building a bottoms up model, the strategic approach I take is I break in marketing bucket, SDR bucket, and AE bucket, and partner bucket. And then I take a look at within marketing the different segments of bucket, whether it's organic or it's paid, right? And I take a look at the metrics between the performance, right? What's the close rate, sales cycle, win rates, and everything, across all these buckets, and understanding those actuals and building it from a bottoms up forecast model then allows me to say, okay, I know for a fact that if I put $1 here, I'm going to get X amount of dollars out, right? And building a forecast model based on actual what we're doing today is the safest and most strategic way to build a plan that you can perform off of. And then from that point, you can start building an idea of how can we improve those efficiencies to get exponential impact on the outcomes.
We haven't addressed all of the questions. In fact, it's just like 1/3, but we should do another one. And
Sure.
thank you so much, Jake. Always a thrill to feature you. Thank you so much for attending. Everybody, make sure to book a one-on-one session with Jake, and your wallet will thank you.
Thank you, Julia. See ya.
Thank you so much. See ya. Bye-bye.